All right, so welcome back. We are doing Northern Flora, block number 4, Fireweed. And for some of you, you might wonder, why am I posting this again? I've updated it because when I videoed it last time, I forgot to change my orientation. So I had it on profile instead of landscape, and so it was sideways. So I can't stand it when things are like that. So I thought I have to fix it. I will redo it. So if you haven't done Fireweed yet, you're going to get to do it right side up. If you've already done it, just ignore this post. And so today I'm going to do probably the most famous flower in Alaska. If you come up here anytime in the summer, late July, early August, you're going to see these blooming all over the place, with the exception of this summer, which was so cool that they just didn't get enough chance for a lot of them to bloom. And so we just had a really cold, wet summer. So it's sort of a bummer because the fields of fireweed that you usually see, you didn't see them. I mean, there were some blooming. It just wasn't like you normally would see. But the fireweed is called that because they are one of the plants that really fills in after a wildfire. And if you come to the Kenai Peninsula anytime soon, or if you've been up here in the last few years, we had a very, very big fire in the area between Kenai and Cooper Landing a couple years ago, and they are blooming now in that wildfire area and just really beautiful. I mean, the trees are all burnt and everything, kind of looks black and dead. But if you go through there, it looks a lot like this fabric right now. You have this sort of dark brown burnt appearance to everything and these beautiful fireweed growing in between. It's just really, really, really is really beautiful. And it looks so much like this fabric. So I loved that this kind of captures that fireweed appearance in a wildfire area. Okay, so I have my photocopy ready. I have my 10.5-inch background square. I have my 4 cathedral window appliques, and I just also want to remind people when you're cutting these that you are going to end up with a little piece left over. You save this piece. Don't throw this out. Don't use this in something else right now. We are going to use these later at the end when we go to do our finishing cathedral window appliques. So all these pieces in here around these branches that fill in to make the circles complete, those are going to be cut from your scraps. So don't throw those away or use them for something else or give them away. Hang on to those because we are going to use those at the end. You will have some left over because you end up with more than you need. But so if you've accidentally used a few and been like, oops, oh gosh, you will have some extra, but you want to hang on to those because we are going to use those later. And I've got all my appliques labeled. I got my thread scissors, so we're ready to go. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, leaves A and B, which is in this light green, and the stem. So I'm just going to pop these out. Leaves A and B go behind the stem. They're on here first. A is a little hard to see. It's back here, goes kind of behind the flowers. Gotta gives it that 3-dimensional look by doing those layers. If you have any little threads that stick out, just go ahead and snip those off. A and B. And then stem. So there's just one piece here in this kind of medium brighter green color. That is your stem. I'll pop that out. And these long stem pieces, just so you know, sometimes when you go to peel this paper off, it stretches a little. So don't rip it off really fast. Just sort of gently peel it off. These longer ones can stretch if you pull too hard. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to lay my stem down so that I know it's going to be covered by that cathedral window piece. And then just gently let it kind of flow up through the center of those flowers all the way up to the tip there. There we go. Next, step B, all cathedral window appliques. So put them on in any order you want. Top 2, bottom 2, go clockwise, counterclockwise, however you want to arrange these. I like to make it to where I'm looking at it in front of me. So I just sort of spin it around, and then before we go back into doing the flowers, I will go ahead and straighten it back up and make sure that I've got everything lined up nicely. And also on these, I'm always just trying to remind people too, when you're placing these on, don't feel like you have to exactly perfectly match the edge there. You do have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So, you know, if it's not perfectly on the edge, it's gonna get hidden in your seam allowance anyhow. And you really don't want them hanging off the edge because for one, if you do that all the way around, it's going to kind of, it's going to end up sort of adding to the width of your fabric or your block and or I guess the length or the width. So when you go to follow the edge for your stitching, you want to be following the background edge, not this if it's hanging off the side, because that's going to make your block slightly larger and it won't fit as well. But also when you go to steam, if the applique is hanging off the edge, the other thing is that that glue and that fabric are hanging off the edge, and you can get that glue onto your iron that way. So I would prefer to have it more inside on the background than hanging off. Just so you are aware of that. Okay, step C, leaves C through H. And if there are leaves that have more than one piece, they're going to be labeled C1, C2, D1, D2. Do all of that letter, all the numbers of that letter before moving on to the next one. So C is actually just a single one. But when you go to D1, you want to do D2 before you head into E. So C is this one right over here. D says D1, so we're going to have a D2. And I have a few, this little light one, it's just wanting to lose threads. Snip those off. D1. So D1 is here, and it's going to be what I would say is kind of at the top here. So D2 is going to do this little ruffly edge to it. So line up D1 with the top part, or the right side, I guess. And then D2, I line up that point and just follow the edge here and let that ruffle, create that ruffle on that light green. E is just a single. Doesn't say E1, so it's just E. And E follows the top of this cathedral window. So I'm just going to put that point right there. Lay that down. F is also just a single F. It just says F. And I've bumped myself a little bit, so I'm just going to straighten back out. But I'm not going to worry that this point is now off slightly. That's okay. Not going to worry about that. F is right here, and I can see this little ruffly edge. So I'm going to line up my ruffly edge and just let it fall. G has a G1, so we're going to have what? A G2. So G1 is, again, it's going to be lining up the top. Now, I can't see it very well because it's underneath this cathedral window. So I can lift that up and kind of take a peek. I can see a little bit of a point right there. And I'm just going to set it down and lay it like that. Now, it might be off slightly, and if that bothers you, one of the ways to see a little better through this fabric is if you turn the overhead lights off or brighten up your light table. You can probably see the lines a little bit better. But if you lay it down and you like where it's at, it's okay. You don't have to move it. You don't have to be perfectly on those other lines. Okay, so now this one, oh, this one goes on top. Oop, you know what? Let me see. Do I want to move it? No, I'm not going to. So this is now the bottom, and this one here, G2, it actually goes across the top to give it that ruffled look there. Now, I was thinking that the green was actually the top, so I kind of moved it up. But if I look here, it is definitely higher than the background. So if I wanted, I could pick it up and move it. But I actually think it's fine just there. But I will actually show you. Now that one is on top of it, it's kind of one piece now, right? So if I said, oh, geez, well, I want to move it down a little bit. I want it to be more like this. It's easy enough to pick it up as now one leaf and move it. So now H1, the last of this light green, whose little threads just want to stick out everywhere. It's funny how some of them are like that. Same machine, same cutting, cut all at the same time, and some fabrics are just like, I just want to hang on to that, and some let go. So H is right about here. Again, I can't see through this very well, so I'm just kind of eyeballing it. That's it for this green. We got H2 and we're done with our leaves. And but some people that, some people just really want to make sure it's precise, and you're welcome to do that if you want to. So H2, I'm just starting at the point here and I'm making sure that this point lines up with this edge, and then just letting that ruffle fall in there where it does. Okay. So now we've done all of our leaves. We're on their final step, step D, all flowers and flower pieces 1 through 23. So on some of these pieces, you're going to find that you have a B, C, right? So, or A, B or something. So you want to make sure you do all of that number first. So if it's a C, A, C, B, C, wait, blah, blah, blah. If there's an 6A, you want to do 6A, 6B, 6C, if there's that many, which, oh, there is, because I see a 6C here, before you move on to 7. So let's start. Number 1, from this dark purpley color. 1 is actually right here, and I'm actually not looking on here for it. I'm looking on here to see where it's located. 2. Doesn't say 2A, so I know it's just 2. 2 is right about there. 3. Now these are actually the ones that have already bloomed, and they're like the little seed pods that are left over. And then eventually they release all these white fluffy seeds, and they get all over the place, and you see them everywhere. And they're actually kind of pretty too. The flowers and the leaves will change color. They get really red, the leaves do, in the fall. And so you have this beautiful pink that looks like this pink and green, just gorgeous fields. And then as the seed pods open up, this white fluff comes out, and you get this white fluff, and the flowers themselves, the leaves turn like red and gold, and it's another beautiful fall color. So they're wonderful flowers. Even if you miss the blooms, if you come and you see all of the autumn colors to them, they're very pretty. They light up our mountainsides and even our ditches on the road with just so much color in the summer and the fall. Okay, so I was doing 4 there, A and B. Now we're moving on to 5. 5 has 3 parts. So 5A is out of this dark, and a lot of these will be A or the very top. I'll probably say that, and the next one is a B. I do see a C and a B. It sort of depends on your layering, but here 5A. So now these ones, you kind of want to figure out which angle they go. And now I've said in the past sometimes, who cares which way? These ones you kind of want to care because they're meant to peek out from between the blossoms. So if you put it in backwards or upside down or something, it might not show through the blossoms. Now, if you don't mind that, it's okay. But if it bothers you and you want to see how I put B down and now it's peeking out from behind those blossoms. If I had done it a different wonky way or something, this one might have got hid by this one. You might see one come through here. This one might have been hid, or this one might be not peeking out very well. So it is one of those ones where you kind of want to try to put it in correctly. Now, if you don't, that's okay. If you put in one where it's like, oh, one of my points got hidden behind a petal, and not every flower you're going to look at, you're going to see all those points anyhow. So that's okay. And this one here, I can't really see that too. And I'm just sort of referencing the picture over here to kind of get an idea. I know that goes in the center. So I'm going to put that down the center first. And I know this little stamen goes in this angle. So I'm going to put that in that angle and just call it good. So now 6A, where's flower 6? She's right here. So again, I'm going to kind of look on here. Nope. Which way does it go? It goes like this. 6B is my sweet little petals, my little light pink. Got some little threads sticking out. Six C is that white stamen in the middle. 7, let's see, what is 7A? 7A is actually the little stamen. We're going backwards this time. We actually are. We're going completely backwards because we're going to do the stamen first. Then we're going to do the petal, which is still a B, I guess. That one ended up in the same position. But the dark and the white ended up flipping around. So here now C is this one. 7C is the dark kind of purpley pink. 8. 8A is this dark again. And 8 is here in the center. So again, I'm going to kind of, oh, I got that one on the first try. What do you know? Kind of just rotate them until I see that, okay, it's falling in the right place. All the points are in between the petals there. And again, I sometimes have to rotate these ones too, like which way does the petals go? But I kind of want those little things peeking out. 8C, and be gentle with these little white ones. They are very small, and those little tips could get pulled off if you're too rough with them. But I've shown you in some of the others how if something tears, you can just sort of stick them back together on the background, and that when you go to fuse it, it will kind of fuse it back together. It sort of heals those little tears. Okay, so 9 is actually this little guy here, and wow, he's really wanting to stick. I'm getting all kinds of little pieces pulled out of this guy, so I'm gonna kind of clip him. That happens sometimes. Why, I don't know. So this guy, I actually pulled on him a little too rough, and I pulled quite a few little threads out of him, so he's got some little lines in him. On the light table, you're going to notice it. I can see them. I don't know if you can on the video, but I can. When I turn the light table off, you won't really notice it anymore. So, but it's one of the reasons that you kind of want to, if you're finding that something is pulling, stop a minute, use your thread scissors, clip those little edges off, or clip those little threads, instead of being like, oh, and see mine too. It must be just something in this area. And sometimes things don't lay perfectly flat on the machine, and it looks like it's fine. And you don't really know until you go to actually pull it out. So I'm noticing just 9 and 10 right here next to each other. The others pulled out just fine. These two are looking a little funky. So I'm just going to kind of go around and snip along my lines and make sure that I'm snipping this one out clean, because I don't want to tear it. A little bit. I don't like having to do that if I can help it. I mean, that's part of having a laser kit, is that you don't have to do a lot of snipping, but that was a lot easier than trying to cut it all out actually, but still. Okay, 10, 11. What is 11? Here we go. It's another one of these little guys. Oh, and see, and now I'm back to a point where it's cutting really well. So it must have just been that one little area or something. I haven't actually had that on any of the others so far, but it must have just been that one spot that was being a little silly. Okay, 12. 12A is actually your last blossom here. 12B. 12C. That's it for those little stamen also. So now we are down to just our purpley color, and we're just going to kind of move up to the top. So 13 is this little guy. 14, and a lot of them kind of go from one side to the other as we're moving up. It's so and every time I say that, the next one ends up being the exception to the rule, but for the most part, you're going from like right to left, right to left, right to left. Sometimes that's not the case, but in general, that's sort of how it goes. So a little thread sticking out here. $15, $16, $17. Whoop, I'm losing one right there. 17. If any of them start to fall out, just make sure you don't lose them. because I have like number 20 here is wanting to pop out before I've gotten to 20. So if she falls out, just kind of keep track of her, because sometimes they drop and you're like, oh my goodness, where is it? I know it was there before. Where did it go? Thankfully, you do have enough fabric kind of here and there that you could cut another one out, or you could also just bunch them up a little bit more to where you don't even notice that 20 isn't in there. I've definitely done that. But now I'm here to 20. She was hanging on by a thread, literally. Okay, 20, 21. And that's the one exception to the rule where we stay on the right. We've been going right, left, right, left, right, left. Now we're staying on the right with 20 and 21. Back over to the left for 22, and then we're topping her off with 23, which is our final piece. So get 22 on there. 23 is that final little point at the top. Okay, all finished. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out from behind there and turn off my light. So what do we do now? Just like with all the others so far, we're going to take our iron and we're going to gently press everything down. First, just pressing just as long as my hand is touching. That's how long you're going to press. Make sure your iron's on a medium heat, not too hot. Then you're going to go ahead and do your steaming. Either steam, holding it above for about ½ inch to an inch above it for a count of about 5 or 6 seconds, blasting it with steam, then setting straight down on that footprint and leaving the iron there for about another 8 to 10 seconds. Double check yourself on the back. If you're seeing those little dots from your steam coming through, that means your iron's too hot. Lower your temperature, give it a minute to lower, and then move on to your next footprint. Steam, set it down, steam, set it down, do the whole thing on the top, flip it over, do the back. Or use your little handy spray bottle, wet an area, put your iron down on it, and let that area's the dampness in that area create the steam for you. And it does the same thing, and you do that all over. Flip it over, do it from the back, and you're finished. All right, so number 4 done. We'll see you again soon for number 5.